Hey everybody, welcome along. You're tuned into Nigel's Modelling Bench, and this is part 4 of the Saturn V build. It's still Wednesday the 1st of May 2019, and I have literally an hour ago finished filming part 3. So here's our stage 3. Here, wait for the glue to dry. I've still got my F1 engines there. They've still got Mr. Surfacer in them. I've put some Mr. Surfacer in the J2 engine for the third stage, so that one's drying. We've got the main tube here that I've done, which has got the Mr. Surfacer and everything on it, which I showed you in stage 3, sanding that back. And then we've got this one here. This is stage 2, and I've still got the sprue glue dry in there. I've yet to start on doing this scribing on the side, but I want to go and get some materials from the garage, and right here right now it's pouring down and I don't want to go outside. So basically moving on out. There we go. Singing a song for you there. Gonna get this this done, this part of the top part, the upper part, front part, whatever you want to call it, of stage 3. This is where the lunar module sits in here. So we've got these flaps, and it's designed to move on this model. So what I'm going to do is see how it goes. So we'll get all the parts off the sprue and I'll assemble it all, and we'll see how it looks when it's all closed up. And if I can't get any decent seams using some plastic card or something, I'll probably just glue it all shut. I also need to look forward at what goes on the top of this, and I believe, yeah, the CSM goes straight on the top of there. So I've got the CSM here, which is waiting for its magnets to come into post. So we'll see how that looks. So stay tuned, guys. I'm just looking. Oh, there are some. I was wondering if there's little sort of pegs in there for these to grab hold of, and there are. So yeah, I'll get the parts off the sprue and then I'll come straight back. You don't want to watch me cutting parts off the sprue, do you? Just noticed something, guys, to be aware of. You've got two parts 33 and 2 parts 34. I doubt if you can see those numbers on the sprue, but they are there. 33, 33, 34, 34. And if you notice, 33 are the ones with the sort of square lugs on the end, and 34 the one with the pin. And also that lug there isn't part of the sprue gate. It's actually supposed to be there. We can see it on the instructions here. So we need to make sure we get 2 of these, get these opposites, so they'll end up like that, and then they'll be like that. So yeah, worth noting that one. Okay, so those parts are all cleaned up now. You need to pay special attention. There's some flash around these hinge parts, and obviously you've got sprue connection points. And then down in here, on each side, on each one, there's a very shallow ejector pin mark. And what I found was this Swan Morton number 10 blade is the perfect radius to get in there. It's perfect. You just get in there and scrape it. Just scrape it away until it disappears. Make sure you don't dig the corner in. And then just once it's disappeared, I've just got a small sanding stick here. I can just go in and just sand that around. It's not particularly important, this area, because it's not something you're going to have on display, I wouldn't have thought. And to be honest with you, I can't see that I'm going to make this fit well enough that I want to leave it, you know, opening and play with the ball, if you like. So yeah, I have to remove that brace from across there, as it shows you on the instructions here. And then we've got to glue all this together and keep the hinges working. So I like to use my extra thin as an after, applying it after the event. So obviously these hinges are going to clip in here like so, and have that lug sticking out at the top like that, and then this is going to go underneath and sit in there like that. So what I'm going to do is hold it in place here with the door hanging off, and then I'm going to put some extra thin there. In fact, I think I'll use my quick setting for this because it makes sense. So this is the, just put the top back on. This is extra thin. It's the same thing, quick setting. It absolutely stinks, but obviously by its name you can tell that it's it sets a lot quicker. And for this kind of application it's really handy, because what I want to do is get this in place and then be able to move on to the next one and not worry about the hinge moving up and touching the glue. If it does, the beauty of the quick setting is, if it does, just keep moving it and you'll feel it break away. You can do it like if you put a wheel onto an axle, it feels a bit sticky, just keep moving it backwards and forwards, keep moving it, and all of a sudden it'll just loosen up. And that's one of the beauties of the quick setting. So that's in place now, there, and now that will hinge over and clip down in. Okay, so that's that one in. Now that one's the one with the lug on, so the next one is with a pin. So that one's going to go there. This is going to go in here like so, like that from the back. Then I'm just going to lift that back, clip that in, turn it over, a drop of extra thin, quick setting, let that go in there. Hold that for a few seconds and that will dry in no time at all. That's dry. And now I'm going to do the same on this one. Make sure that pin or the hinge part is away from the joint. I think I'm not sure I had enough glue on there then. Yeah, if you have the door like that, if you hold the door and then let it come up, make sure it's not touching either side, you'll see the actual hinge part is against that wall there. So I could just literally touch on there, let that go off. Then the next one needs to be this type again, so put that in there, hold it in place, get the glue in from behind. I mean, to be honest, having this as a workable feature will look quite impressive, I must be honest. The thing is, this is just pretty much a fun build out of the box sort of thing. The 1/96 scale one I'm doing will be more of a sort of a correct, accurate scale model. I mean, I'm not buying any aftermarket for this at all, and I know about its issues, so it might be good to have this as alongside the 1/96 as a means of demonstrating how Saturn worked. I mean, not a lot of people know. I didn't know until I started investigating it. Okay, so that's that one in. And now the last one. What I'm going to do with this one is glue the back first. Just put a drop of the quick setting in there. Get these out of the way. And then just pop that back, pop that in, have that resting like that. And let the glue do its work. And there we go. And just to make sure, I'm going to go around the other three and just put a drop of glue on each one. Just to get the glue in there. Sorry if you heard that, guys, my stomach has just rumbled, I must be hungry. So there we go. And then those little legs that stick out is what the lunar module is going to sit on. I'm not sure what the lunar module sat on in real life. Something else I'll have to look at. Right, while that's drying, I'm going to look at getting this lunar module base up together. I'm not going to worry about the nozzle, the rocket nozzle, but I am going to look at getting these legs in and seeing how it all goes. The legs actually work so that you can have the lunar module standing up and then fold them in to put them into the top of the third stage. So basically there's sprue nibs on these feet which need to be removed. So go around all them and rub all them off. And also here, I would recommend getting yourself a nice flat surface and just gently rubbing around there to make sure that's all flat and square. And once again, if you want to, you can get your little your pencil or your magic marker and just put some dots on it. Don't go mad if you use a magic marker, because any left will stain and it will show through the paint you put on top. And just rub away at that face until all that pen disappears, just to make sure that you've got, I'm not gouging, I'm just using the weight of my hand just to make sure that's nice and flat. And then when you put this together, you note there's 2 holes in there and there's 2 pins on there. When you put this together, then you can then get a really nice joint, or you can try and get a really nice joint. You see this panel here isn't dead flat, so I'm not sure if that's because that pin's too high or if it's because the panel's not flat. You see, now that one there is a better joint than that one, so I think it's possibly the pin being too high. So I'll just remove some of that pin like so, and then yeah, you can see we get a much better joint now. So I've got a nice joint on both sides, or all 4 sides should you say. And then I think I might have a go with the foil with this one, we'll see. Trouble is we have to do it with the legs on, which isn't going to be very easy, although if I can hinge them down like that out of the way, it may be okay. So we'll give it a go. Now on these legs there's a lot of flash. If you look here, you can see there's a lot of flash, and the legs are almost sort of, they're not round, they're kind of D-shaped in sections. So I'm going to do a little bit of scraping, a little bit of work, and get them looking a bit nicer than they are there. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, I just want to demonstrate something for you here. This is the leg as it comes off the sprue, with the nibs cleaned up and everything. And you can see what I'm saying. When you look at it from this side, it's all kind of flat. When you turn it over, it's radius. Now unfortunately, this is the inside face. You're not going to see that nice radius face, so they kind of moulded it the wrong way around really. But you know, mould restrictions as they were, I mean, they've still got restrictions now, but I'm sure technology was not as good then as it is now. But here's one that's cleaned up, and I think you'll agree it looks a lot better. So how have I got from that to that? So let me show you. For a start, you need a really nice sharp blade. I'll do the easy part first. Here I'm just going to go around the outside and just literally scrape it, and I'm going to keep moving round, and I'm kind of almost, if you like, scraping a few angles on there rather than actually making it perfectly radiused. Okay, so that's that outside done, like that. Okay, now the inside, I'm going to use the tip of the knife and just cut like so, just cut in and keep going until I end up with a thin section, and then just keep rubbing like that. And then do the same inside here. Like so. And then down in there. So that's that area there done. Then I want to get in here, radius that one round a bit. Then I can scrape that one round like that. Scrapes are off the outside there. Do some more cutting on the inside to get it thinned down, and in there like so. And then I'm going to turn it over, and the main leg has got the same problem. So again with the knife, just going to come down and cut into the main leg like that, just basically shaving it off, not taking too much, just shaving. You won't do this in 10 seconds. It's what modeling's all about, is having patience and taking your time. And then again, just get in there and clean that up, take a bit more off of there. This blade is actually a little bit blunt, so I should really be replacing the blade. And then this is another one of Flory's sanding sticks. You saw me using this in part 1 on the command service module, and they are extremely good, these little skinny sticks. They're very soft and they're fairly fine, and they're great for getting into little areas like this, and just really putting a radius on everything. Now obviously you aren't going to get a sanding stick into here, so you need to use your knife to clean that up. Just use the tip of the knife to knock that little last bit out. I've got a little bit there sticking up, so I'm going to get rid of that with the knife. And then there we can see that I've actually radiused off this side of the tubing, if you like. I'll do the same down there. Take the edge off of that. And it's not, this isn't, you know, really load bearing at all. The weight of the lunar module, even when it stood at legs, is just a couple of grams. So there we go, that's that done. And you can see there when you look from side to, whoops, I dropped it. When you look at this side, when you look at the left side there, you can see it looks a lot nicer than the right side. I've still got a little bit more to clean up in there, I see. Take a bit more out of there. And this little bit of work here, guys, it's slow, it's laborious, but it makes the difference between, especially older kits, it makes a difference between a nice looking scale model and a toy. I mean, this has got parts missing and it is quite simplified. Obviously it's 1/44 scale it's going to be, and it's 51 years old. But I'm just going to clean up those little sharp edges in there. And then the next tip I can give you is, once you've got there, take some of your tabby extra thin. Don't have much on the brush, just dry the brush off quite a lot, and then go around and just paint the extra thin everywhere that you've sanded or scraped, and it will, any little sanded edges or edges of swarf or whatever that are sticking out, it'll get rid of. And there's a piece of flash there, an ejector pin I think it is. Just going to remove that. Cut that away. Quick sand over that, and that's gone. And then a bit more extra thin, brush that over that, and that's disappeared. And there you go. So you can see when you look at one side like that and look at the other side like that, you can see it looks a lot better and more far more refined, or more finesse. And you need to do the same all around here. Don't touch this piece here because you need that for the legs to clip in and out. And then get this side done here. Do that on all the legs and you're away. Right, I'm still working on this tiny little lunar module. I started cutting away the ladder and that, and I thought, hang on a minute, that's very, very narrow and it's very, very long. And I looked at some reference shots, and the ladder was actually only a few rungs, and it was a lot wider because they didn't actually treat it as a ladder and walk down it. It sort of jumped down. If you look at it, they sort of jump down it. So it needed to be a little bit wider and sort of, it wasn't quite so short. And if you noticed, there's, you know, the very famous shot of his on Apollo 11, the first landing, the first man on the moon. He sort of jumps off, you know, a couple of feet down. So I decided to make my own ladder out of plastic rod, and that's just, I basically glued it together on a steel rule, let the glue go sort of hardish, and then just peel it off with a knife. And now it can just sit there now, and once it's gone hard, I'll clean that up and glue it to that leg. So I think that'll look a lot better. The actual main lunar body in this kit just comes in 2 halves. It's fairly simple, and it goes together like this. And then we've got a hole in the top. Yeah, and the hole isn't filled with anything. The hole is just, it will be able to clip onto the, yeah, you see we've got a hole there, so it'll allow you to go onto the front of the command module if you wanted to display it that way. So I won't be, so I'll probably fill that hole in. So I'm going to get some extra thin. I gave the faces a bit of a clean up because they were quite rough with ejector pin marks and stuff, so they've had a bit of a clean up. So I'm just going to glue this together now, so that it's set nice and hard, you know, ready for sort of, you know, I'll give it probably 8 to 12 hours sort of thing before I'll be back to the bench. And yeah, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can clamp this together somehow, so that it can be held together without moving around. Let's just see. I think I'm going to have to hold it, put some glue in it, and then play with it after. So I'm just putting the extra thin on, like I like to do after the event, and just let it run into all the joints. As you can see here. And this little peg on the bottom, be careful not to cut that off, that's not a sprue. It actually allows you to fit it into the base. It goes in like that, and then you turn it. That's your sort of bayonet fitting, if you like. So it's basically, like I think I said earlier, it's in another part, it's an old model, and old models were basically toys. They were for youngsters to make. They were extremely educational. I started when I was 6 years old, and I actually taught myself to read. When I went through school in my younger years, I was like top of the class all the time for reading, because I made models. And the old Airfix models that we used to get, they weren't like today with all these exploded diagrams. This would have said, you know, if this was an Airfix, it would have said cement 2 halves of lunar module, whatever this bit's called, I can't remember now, but main body, whatever it is, together. And that would be it. You know, there wouldn't be a diagram showing you to look out for raised holes or pins or whatever. It'd just be glue them together, and there'd be basically like all of this would have been in one page with a load of writing down the side. So yeah, it's not like it is today. So that's that clamped together. So I'm going to leave that now to go hard, because we need to get a nice seam on that. I mean, I don't know why I'm making all this fuss, because I might not even use the Lunar Module in the model at all. This here, I've had a quick look, and it doesn't go together particularly well. It's not bad when you consider how old the tooling is. It's not bad at all, but it doesn't seem to want to sit. You can get it to sit like this, and then the CSM will just clip onto the top, but it doesn't seem to want to sit, so you get a flat. It doesn't seem to want to lay down flat here, which is a bit of a shame. I might see if I can play with it and improve it, and then what it does, it comes open like this, and then the Lunar Module will sit in. I guess it sits on there like that, or does it sit like that? I'm guessing it sits in there somehow like this, and then that closes up around it. So yeah, cool, good bit of designing. I also wonder, actually, looking at this now, I wonder if the Lunar Module is under scale, because you've got this is one of the problems with injection moulding. It's the same with aircraft interiors, are generally undersized. Instrument panels are generally smaller than, you know, a 32nd instrument panel is probably about 35th scale, because you've got to allow for the thickness of the plastic in scale, which would be huge. And here I'm wondering if, because of the thickness of the plastic here, I wonder if that Lunar Module's undersized. I don't know if there's any way of finding out, but I quite fancy getting the one of the bigger kits of the Lunar Module. That would be quite an interesting little display. I've got plenty of Easter egg foil, so it's a good excuse to buy Easter eggs as well. And if you are in the UK and you're looking around supermarkets, the Kit Kat one, there's a Kit Kat, what they call, like Kit Kat Moments or something, the one with the fancy chocolates. That gold foil on them is a perfect colour as well. It's that sort of rich, sort of bronzy gold colour, or brassy gold, should I say. So yeah, that needs a bit of work to make it fit properly. There's no doubt it's doable. Probably would have been better off doing it before I glued the hinges in, but there's nothing to stop me splitting them open and starting again. I could even split the actual hinge open here and just move a leg to one side, take them out, and then glue them back in. That wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, it's not a very good fit, as you can see. I may just glue all this shut and then put some Mr. Surface around there, rescribe it, and call it a day. We'll see. So yeah, come back and I might have decided what I'm going to do by then. Right, so the legs and the ladder are done now. This is the next morning, and we can see there, I think that looks a lot better than it did before. So can you see that? Is it focusing? Yeah, I think it looks a lot better than it did before. More in scale. I think the ladder should be a little bit longer, to be honest, but hey, I'm not going to make it all again just for that. So what we need to do is assemble this as per the instructions, and I'm not sure now which position that ladder needs to be in. Trust me to grab the wrong sheet. If you notice, I've changed my cutting mat to the green one below that I'm trying to save, but hey, why try and save stuff? I'm going to have to get myself a new one anyway, because this one's getting a bit tatty. So the one with the ladder is, when we look at this, it's like that. So we can see this sort of pegged hole that the top part goes in. The ladder goes in front of that, so that one's going to go there, like so. And I'm also thinking, really, this should be painted black inside, or it's going to look terrible when you look in there. So let me go and paint that black inside. Right, we're all painted now inside, so that when you actually look through these gaps, you'll see black rather than the white plastic. I should have painted that peg, shouldn't I? But oh well. I can always go around it afterwards. Now, I've found that if this base is actually, it's not the base, it's actually the roof, isn't it? But for now it's the base because it's upside down. If you put this flat on the bench, these legs are impossible to stand up. So what I've done, I've got it on a lump of blue tack, and just have that there, and then you can actually hook the legs on and they will sit and hang off like that. So it's going to be quite fiddly, this. It's probably all going to fall apart 3 or 4 times. You'll also notice I've got some paint on the glue joint here, but I've sanded the paint off there. A little bit of paint, especially paint that's only just been applied 10 minutes ago, isn't going to affect the joint. So those legs there are hanging in there, and now what we've got to do is put this on. And if you remember, we've got the 2 pegs there which need to go in those 2 holes there. So I'm just going to plonk this on the top like so, hold it together and don't let it go. And then these legs, you can hear it kind of creaking and groaning. Those little pegs inside are actually working on like the leg is like a cam, so they will sort of clip in and stay in place, which is, for its age, I think it's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely brilliant. Remember, this is from the era, you know, that when they made, if you look back on my old videos, you'll see I did a review of the original monogram release of the 72nd scale B52, and that had all sorts of working features on it. And like I say, models in this area were educational toys. So I'm going to put plenty of glue in, make sure we get a good joint, and then I'm going to peg it and let it just go off. Let's get my clamps. So put a peg on there, and a peg on there. If you're in the UK, guys, these pegs, in your local Tesco's, you will find you've got a section where everything's £1, and these pegs come, I think there's about 12 or something in a pack, or 10 for £1, and they're brilliant because they've got these rubber ends on them. They don't damage anything, and they tend not to slip off. So yeah, it's worth getting yourself some if you next time you're shopping. And yeah, the red, yellow, blue, and green, I think they are. Or they're just red, yellow and blue. No, red, yellow, blue and green. There's a green one there. And yeah, not the colour matters, but just to let you know what to look out for. And they are brilliant. Really, really good. One of them's a bit dodgy because the moulding's a bit funny and it doesn't close properly, so I chucked that out. But I mean, for £1, they are a bargain, and they've got a nice, you know, some of the wooden pegs you get, they don't hardly grip at all, and some of them are really aggressive, and they always do this, don't they? They always do that. And I turn, there's a normal closed peg there. I turn mine inside out so that they're like that. I learnt that off a guy from Bristol on a YouTube channel. I can't remember his name, but yeah, really good idea, and it's good for getting in tight places as well. So that's that done. So I'm going to leave that now to dry, and then we can get it all painted black. I'm just going to check I've got that ladder in the right place. Yes. Yes, so when we look at it like this, that little key there, we should see that it's like that, as it is there, and the ladder is there. So I think that looks a lot more to scale than it did before with those great big fat legs and everything. So there we go. So that'll do us for now. So what's next? That's got to go left to dry. I've got the main actual upper body of the lunar module here, which has all been I've done the gone over the seam with Mr. Surfacer. So now I can get I want to make sure the areas are flat where they can be. Just going to get a flat sanding stick and just rubbing in one direction. If you do this, you stand a chance of putting a radius on it. So if you just go in one direction, you stand less chance of actually putting a radius on it. So there we go, that's nice there. Do the same here. And this is just literally roughing it out, guys. This is just roughing out because it's got quite a step on it. And then the top part here. Where it clips onto the command module. And if you heard that chime there, I've actually got my my old, is it grandmother clock, the small one that hangs on the wall. I've got that working. It's not a full-size floor standing grandfather clock. I'm just literally going to go round and just deal with these seams. Go around the corner there, around the corner there, and that's it for that core stick. So now I'm going to use one of my skinny sticks, the Flory skinny sticks. You can get these from Phil Flory, you can get them from UMP. UMP has just apparently started doing a starter pack, or a jumbo pack or something it's called. And yeah, I might have to get some. I've never bought anything from Paul at UMP, but those guys do make some good stuff. I know that. I know their thinners. I must try some. Their thinners apparently thins anything, so I must get some and try it. I never have. So I also want to try their decal solutions, because apparently they're awesome as well. So maybe they'll send me some, but the trouble is, I'm honest. So if something's rubbish, I'll tell them. But I think they've got a lot of confidence in their products. So I know their primers are basically rebadged Stynel res, but then the AK one shot, and I think there's a MIG one as well, which is also just a rebadged Stynel res. So yeah, if you're after a good acrylic primer and you're in the UK, you can't go wrong with the UMP, or wherever else you're on the road, whatever it's easier to get. If you can get Stynel res, AK, whatever, it's all the same thing, so that's worth knowing. And there we go, that's that all cleaned up. So I'll get this polished up, and then I'll be back, and I'm going to be finishing the inside of those F1 engines in this part as well. Right, as I said, I'm not going to bore you by showing you sanding all of these, but you can see there's that rubber band broken as well, another one. they are garbage. There's the inside of one, sanded out and looking lovely. Once that's got some paint on it, all those lumps and bumps and marks and that will become invisible. That's how it starts off. I've put another layer of Mr. Surfacer in there. I've probably got about 17 gallons of Mr. Surfacer, or even more. There's probably more Mr. Surfacer in these nozzles or in these exhausts than there was fuel in the real thing. So it was ever so funny actually. I noticed, I was looking the other day at the weights, and apparently I think it's stage 3 weighs sort of 2,300 and something pounds unladen or unfueled, and when it's fueled it's 23,000 pounds or something. It's like, God almighty. We've done the lunar module. We need to get that painted now in black. It's over here, got those seams rubbed out. We've done the nozzles. We've built up the little pod that accepts the lunar module, so that's going to open up like that. The lunar module is going to sit in there. And that's about that for this part. So I think this has been a shorter one, hasn't it? But I always say that, it's probably going to work out to be an hour. So thanks for watching, guys, and if I've bored you to tears, I'm sorry. Next step is going to be basically starting to, I'm not going to bore you with watching me do all the seams. I'll get all that done. What you do want to see though is how I'm going to do this, so I'll come back for that and show you that when we're ready. Or when I'm ready, should I say. And we'll look at, basically we want to get rid of this raised area here, this great raised lump. It just looks wrong. So well, those seams are staying lovely by the look of it. They're not sinking or anything. But yeah, we'll get those seams done, and then we'll get some black paint on here and let's see what it all looks like. But yeah, if you look at these closely, you can see they're kind of, they're supposed to be stringers. They're supposed to be vertical strips placed around the radius tangentially, well, not tangentially, perpendicular to the center line. Here we go. But they're not. They're kind of, if you look at it on end on, you can see they're kind of steps. But that's because of the moulding restrictions. The mould had to just do this. The mould couldn't do that. Okay, so that's been state part 4. I'll see you for part 5. I think part 5 may be a little bit further away because I've got some other stuff I need to get done in between, like the build along and some other bits and pieces. People are also crying out for another update on the Lancaster. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already.